it's a better option than a Mars bar, for guys, for fuck's sake. Is the carnivore diet actually any use at all to people with autism and neurodivergence? I'm going to dive deep into this discussion, provide pros and cons, and just learn from someone that has experienced this firsthand. As the current research looks mostly at children with autism, not specifically on a carnivore diet, but on a ketogenic diet, I'm going to be using that as a bit of an extrapolation. But I've also created a diet plan for a 14-year-old. Not deliberately, it's a fictional character, but what we'll say is there is a highly significant factor when it comes to looking at dietary protocols, interventions, how the medical community comes online to sort of say this is helpful, this is not. Let's get straight to it. So the common thought is that we can achieve a perfect diet with all the sufficiencies that we need, appropriate amounts. For a carnivore diet, we can get everything we need from it. You know, meat, salt, water, Well, that's not been the case for most people. Evidence to support my claim comes from the fact that I've tried it. I know a lot of other people that have tried it as well. And it just doesn't seem to provide that hedonic factor when it comes to enjoying food, and people with palatability issues such as those with autism, perhaps they struggle to actually eat a mono diet. On the flip side, it might make their life more organised, give them less to think about, less food focus, so in that instance maybe it's helpful. Anyway, we're going to have a look a bit closer at this. So I've created a diet plan which you'll see here on the screen now. And what you actually notice is that it's for a 14-year-old male with autism. So I've used the reference guidelines as broadly as I can with normative reference ranges for different dietary values to come up with a diet which I think is pretty sustainable. Again, it's just off the top of the cuff. I don't have any absolute proof that this is the optimal carnivore diet for autistic people or children. But it is a diet nonetheless that has got a significant amount of animal foods that does provide lots and lots of nutrition. Now this is going to provide you some background of how to reach your nutrient targets as an autistic person based on the guidelines that we do have on vitamins, minerals, amino acids, supplements, things like that, which could be helpful. Now I've tried most of these, so I can give my honest opinion based on first-person experience. Now what you can actually find here in regards to a diet that I've made, which includes eggs, bacon, steak, liver, salmon, ground beef and chicken thighs, which I think is a delicious diet. I don't eat pork though, I'm not a fan of pork. Now if we look at the B12, sufficient, iron, sufficient obviously, magnesium, slightly deficient according to normative ranges of dietary reference values, but doesn't necessarily mean we need more. It might just be that we utilise more and our bodies waste less. Who knows without a serum blood test and also a tissue selective magnesium blood test. So you can see here how we have to extrapolate as individuals, nutritionists in this community, because there is no science on it. So we have to work out based on anecdotes. That's what I aim to provide in this, and provide as much science as I possibly can. Now getting to the next point, vitamin D. A good amount. We provide all our body needs just from eating a bit of salmon, a bit of fish, a bit of, I don't know, liver. That will do the job. We don't need a lot, guys, especially when you're young, you're out and about, playing in the sun. You don't need much more than that. Now we're going to look at vitamin E, which is a bit lower. However, I'd argue that the vitamin E form, the tocopherols, can't even say it right, are probably more useful than the other vitamin E subformats that we do apparently have. Next, got vitamin K2. Now that can easily be upped just by having some raw milk, some dairy, some cheese, a bit more chicken thigh perhaps. That will do the job, so I'm not too concerned about that one. Now the format of vitamin K2 is important. We're looking at things like vitamin K2 versus vitamin K, MK4, MK7. MK4 is one we're looking at primarily when it comes to long-term health outcomes. Now vitamin C, it's labelled as 0, however we do know, according to scientific literature, in other places if you know where to look, that it does actually have a proportion of vitamin C. Now if we're looking at the diet plan itself, I would estimate it, personally, assuming you're cooking foods all the way through, you're not eating it raw, just to give you the low point that it could possibly be, you're looking at about 5-6 milligrams of vitamin C per day, which I think is absolutely fine for a young person. Probably say about 5 to 10 milligrams for an adult is probably sufficient, depending your age, stage, gender, what you're doing, your activity levels. If you have any sneaky carbs or fruit or honey, pour Saladino. Now next, zinc. Obviously, you've got enough zinc in this sort of diet. You add a bit of seafood in there, damn, you got a lot. You got a vitamin A, of course, probably from the liver. That's going to be the main source, and the eggs, things like that, which are going to be basically the animal format of retinol, which is absolutely excellent for your body. I'd argue actually need more than the RDA, but that's because the RDA and vitamin D statuses are closely interlinked or correlated. And what you're going to find is the more vitamin D someone has, the more vitamin A they'll require. So that's a given, and that's acceptable in my opinion. Next, we've got the carnitine. Now, there's no RDA on it. However, there's some very strong literature which is looking at doses somewhere around 2 to 3 grams per day for autistic individuals, where they're finding it particularly effective and improving mitochondrial function, correcting some of the polymorphisms that might exist, basically genetic SNPs, genetic defects, some people might say, depends how you look at it, for autistic children, autistic people in general. And what you're going to find is you get enough for your diet, good. You probably don't. So in this diet, we're looking at a carnitine amount of about 400 to 540 milligrams per day, which is obviously not the clinical dose. Now, for brain health, cognitive function, which is very important to the autistic individual, we're looking at perhaps 2 grams per day-ish. Please do your own research. Don't take my word as gospel. This is your responsibility if you're watching this as a parent, to go through and find out what is legit and what isn't. Do not take your child's health for granted. As much as I am an autistic individual, and I do empathise completely with anyone that does have autism, I'm open to error, I'm fallible, and this is something you need to take upon yourself, and it's just more of a signposting kind of video, so I want that to be very clear. Now, taurine's also been effective. In the diet, we're looking at 500 to 680 milligrams. Have a bit of tuna, maybe. That'll up it a lot. A lot of seafood will up taurine significantly. And that's going to help you get towards the amounts that we're looking at. Now, the amounts we're looking at, in my opinion, for taurine could be very low or very high. It does depend on the person's detoxification status, how well hydrated they are, and the symptomology in general. So that's more of a trial and error kind of thing. Some people may benefit from supplementing with taurine 1 gram per day, some up to 10, 15 grams. Not many people fit into that kind of higher end of the spectrum, but I would say that you're looking at some kind of dose to find some benefit. It's more of a background supplement, not so much something you're going to notice and think, oh, I can do stuff socially and I'm friendly and people like me. People don't like me. People can't stand the fact that I'm bold. I don't get it. Weird. Anyway, the next thing we're going to talk about here is omega-3. And obviously we've got a great amount of omega-3 here, but I would suggest some people to look more closely at that one. I've had personal experience with omega-3 where it's been particularly beneficial. The amount here is obviously shown at about 1.4-ish to 2.3 grams in the diet. You take out salmon for the day, that's going to plummet it right down. So you do, in my opinion, benefit from including some amount of fish in the diet, which is going to be your main source of omega-3. If someone, your child, yourself, are not the biggest fan of fish, what you can actually do is buy tin mackerel even. It's a better option than a Mars bar, for guys, for fuck's sake. You know, use your common sense. Tin of fish, tin of sardines, whatever it is. You can mix it in with some eggs, make some scrambled eggs. And what I suggest doing if you're not keen on the fishy taste, perhaps even get mackerel. What you can do is you get a tin of mackerel, pour water in it, make sure you get all that salt and all that grit and stuff out of it. Just so when you actually chew into it, it just tastes like plain meat with no aftertaste, which is very possible. Of course, there could be some titration from the omega-3 out of it, but I wouldn't be too concerned. The main thing is just getting the fish in your child. Very important. You mix it in with scrambled eggs, like I said. You can bake with it. You can do all sorts of things. Make a meatloaf with a bit of sprinkling of fish in it. No one's going to know. Trust me. So overall, my comparison is highlighting the adequacy of certain nutrients within a carnivore diet, while also pointing out key vitamins like vitamin D, E, and C that may require supplementation. Probably not vitamin C, but you can look at it, something to look at. Some people may find a benefit. It's all down to you guys. Do your own experiment, your own intervention. This is not medical advice. So yeah, the children are going to definitely benefit from more omega-3. It seems to be the fat-soluble vitamins, I think, that are the key here. And obviously a B complex will be useful to some children. But you're looking at a carnivore diet, if you eat beef, you eat eggs, you're getting a lot of B vitamins, guys. Just be careful with folate. The MTHFR, the motherfucker gene, is particularly common in people with autism. So you're looking at correcting that metabolic pathway. The way you go about doing that is either supplementing with a B2, which is a riboflavin. That work further up the scale and provide all the elements needed to maximize that metabolic pathway and conversion into methylfolate. You can supplement with methylfolate, although I'd argue it's probably counterintuitive long term. And I've had quite a few times when I've used it and the pendulum's basically swing back. My energy has gone to crap. So be very careful with that one. Remember, these are complex systems in the bodies, guys. You can't tape up and patch up things with one thing here, one thing here. Add it in, take it out, add it in again, notice any benefits. You know how the drill works, guys. So hopefully that was useful. So now I'd like to kind of summarize what I've spoken about, the doses, the amounts, all that sort of thing. So we're going to look first at vitamin A, the sensory soother, you might call it. You're looking at about 900 micrograms a day for men, adult men. You're looking at vitamin D, great for the mood, great for people with depression. People with deficiencies in it tend to have a lot of crap wrong with them, so it's worth supplementing if you're deficient. Otherwise, get out in the sun, do some grounding, get some solid sunlight on you while you're out there, actually. I think that's going to be even better than the dietary aspect of it, so I'd look at that first. Now, the dosage for that one is somewhere between 1,000 and 4,000 units a day. That's been studied quite independently, and it does link quite closely with behavioural symptom improvements if you've got the sufficient amount in your body. Next, vitamin E, the mood or the brain soother, I guess you might call it. It's great for reducing oxidative stress, especially in the brain. Behavioural issues can occur if someone is deficient in it. You're looking at things like fish roe, liver, eggs, chicken, stuff like that. Supplements work as well. Just make sure you look for natural vitamin E, which is D-alpha tocopherol. Can't even say it. Rather than synthetic forms, like I mentioned earlier. So DL-alpha tocopherol being the optimal choice. Next, you've got vitamin K2, which is actually a gut healer as well. Leaky gut, intestinal permeability is very common amongst autistic people. So we're looking at a dose of roughly 90 micrograms to 200 micrograms per day. That's been studied to be effective for brain function, bone health, and gut balance. So really important for the gut-brain axis. You got to check out some videos by Dr. Rachel Brown, Dr. Georgia Eads, other people in that space. Chris Palmer have looked at this very closely. And there's some very interesting links there, so you don't want to miss out on topics like that. Best sources of that, things like egg yolks, chicken liver, Gouda, grass-fed butter, they work a treat. Can supplement as well, MK4 or MK7 or whole complex. Just be careful if you've got any kind of heart issues. It can cause some plaque to basically dislodge and potentially rip open your endothelial function layer, which is not much fun. It basically means you're going to die. So be very careful taking these things, guys. Don't think more is better with any of the stuff I'm mentioning. Now, the next one, vitamin C, you can supplement with it. It does seem to have a reasonable detoxification impact on people with autism. And I'd also say that it can actually lower cortisol as well, which is usually chronically high in autistic people. So something to look at, perhaps not high on my list, but perhaps look at it maybe if your child or yourself are cooking your food to death and there is a massive titration that might happen, although it's not shown to be significant. Perhaps look at vitamin C. Tiny doses are needed. You don't need a lot to prevent scurvy, guys. You're looking at the milligrams, so don't worry too much about that one. Now, vitamin B12, the brain's energizer. It's basically, it's crucial for energy production and cognitive function. So many people experience brain fog, fatigue, and people have actually used higher dose of B12, like an energy drinks, to improve alertness. Don't go giving your child caffeine, guys. It's fucking stupid. They'll be bouncing off the walls. Try to keep them off it for as long as possible, honestly. But yeah, you can use that as a sublingual. And most of these products, these supplements, are available in a liquid format. Again, supplements are not ideal. But if your child is living with debilitating suffering and terrible symptoms, and they're deficient, give them the damn supplement. You know, use your sense. You know, just make the effort. You know, give your child the blood tests they need to find out if they've got deficiencies. Optimize your child's life. Give them the best start possible. Very important. Now, zinc is the next one, the immune and gut whisperer. So it's essential for neurotransmitter balance, immune function, which can help actually calm down gut-related symptoms. There's things like zinc carnosine, which could also be useful. Just to repeat that in case you didn't hear the first time. Zinc carnosine. One to look at, definitely for sure. Now, the next thing. I'm going to look at the omega-3, so you could call it brain lube. At least a gram a day of combined EPA and DHA. Quite easy to get if you eat a portion of fish. Now, obviously, it's going to regulate inflammation, mood, focus, communication. A lot of children experience a great benefit from this, and I would definitely not be poo-pooing supplements in this instance. I think the benefit to be had grossly outweighs any potential cons, rancidity, oxidative damage and stress from using these tinned foods, for example. But if you can get fresh, get organic, get the best you can afford, basically, that's my opinion on it. But there's nothing wrong, in my opinion. If you're autistic, you're suffering, you want to die, honestly, you've got terrible symptoms, then have a tin of sardines, have a tin of mackerel, get some salmon, get some smoked salmon, get anything in that you can. Very important. That one's very high on my list. To recap, the carnitine, 500 milligrams to 2,000 milligrams per day. My preferred format is acetyl L-carnitine, also spelled A-L-C-A-R, Alcar. So look at that one. It's been very well studied in autism. It's going to basically help transport fatty acids into the mitochondria, and people that struggle with fatigue. Again, it's always going back to fatigue. Think what creates energy. Look at those pathways in a biochemistry textbook. That's where you're going to need to go. But it's very effective. You can get that in a liquid as well. Most of these you can mix in water, I believe. You get liquid droppers and all sorts of things. So try that out. It might be that you have to make a little stack for your child with tiny little doses. Put in a little cap of, I don't know, even if it's like sugar-free squash, for fuck's sake. That's better than nothing. And again, the pros outweigh the cons. We've touched on taurine a little bit. Again, the dose, 1 to 10 grams per day. I'd stick around the lower point, even half a gram per day. See what benefits can be had. Titrate it up. Use your bowels as your yardstick. I'd probably say it's probably the best suggestion. If you're basically eating too much salt, how do you know how much salt you're eating? You're just eating too much salt. You've got tasty salt in your mouth all the time. Then perhaps you're going to look at using something like taurine. It's going to regulate your electrolytes. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, in that if you use too much, it can cause some gut disruption, so just be very careful for that one. So just to conclude, vitamin D to boost your mood, omega-3 to keep your brain running smoothly, B12 for energy. These all provide crucial nutrients, and they're just some of many of them. These are some of the ones that kind of stood out to me when I was doing my own little literature review research kind of thing. But yeah, there's loads of ways to get these nutrients down your diet without gagging. So next time you're feeling low, you've got sensory overload, maybe your brain's wired, you just feel tired at the same time, you need that nourishment, try out some of these supplements. They're quite efficacious. And I'm not going to shell out and say, buy my product. But if you do want my recommendation, I can send you a referral link, which is through Amazon Associates. Below, just ask me in the comment section. I'll send that link through there. Otherwise, I'm not your medical doctor. I'm not someone that you go to for psychological advice or evaluation, but I'm here to hopefully provide you with some useful insights through my videos specifically. Hopefully it's been useful to you, and if you wanted to touch a bit on my bodybuilding journey, highly recommend Carnivore Beef Up Bodybuilding Bible. Introducing Beef Up Carnivore Bodybuilding Bible. The ultimate guide for men and women to lose fat and build muscle. And the best part, it's only $12. Don't miss out on the most detailed resource available. Get a copy now at compositionconsultant.com. But more particularly, I think the useful ebook to purchase from my website, which is compositionconsultant.com, is Carnivore Muscle Blueprint. It lays out my entire day as an autistic individual, the biohacks I use, and the things I find most important for me at that period of time. Through my life where I'm 29 years old, trying to progress, just achieve things, help other people, and give something back to the community. There's a lot of people taking this from this community. Sellouts. Absolute fucking sellouts. Apologies if your children had to watch me rant and rave and swear to this video. But this is a online YouTube channel platform for adults. This is listed as an adult video. And as always, all the references will be cited below in the description box. Do your research. Hopefully it's been useful to you guys. Take care. Build muscle and lose fat on the carnivore diet.